Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again. I was going to do Sharon and her television episode today, but I thought I might put that off to another day, which I can't remember if I never can remember if any month has a 30th or a 31st, for some reason. I just don't really care at this point. Oh, there's only 28? Oh, shit. Okay, I have only 8 days left to do Sharon's video for this month. And for next month, I believe, is going to be, two full seasons that I have to do, which shouldn't be too hard, because I've been buzzing through Leave It to Beaver. I just really enjoy watching that show for some reason, so I'm going to have to do the same thing. I think what I'll do is I'll do season 1, and then I'll do her episodes all alone, and then I'll do season 2 as a whole, and I might do the rest of the seasons as well, since I don't think that Safi is ever going to want to do that show. So anyways, I am here today to rank. As you guys know, I love ranking things. I don't really love it. I just think that number one, it's fun, and number two, it's like a game, and it's like, which person do you have over that, or which thing over that? I don't really take it as seriously as people think that I do, but I do take it pretty seriously, I guess. I guess compared to other people. So, I am here to rank the MCU villains. So this is not the side villains like Mo Dick and the girl from Iron Man 3, the girlfriend, or the other people in the Sinister Six and Young Iron Man No Way Home. This is just the main villains of all the movies, pretty much. Because I have not seen... Let's see. I turned off Ant-Man and the Wasp, but I do have her on here because I saw her in some clips and I heard all about her, and I kind of skimmed through the movie a little bit to see what she was like, and then I have not seen Eternals, I have not seen Captain Feminazi, I have not seen Shang-Chi, I have not seen Black Widow, and I have not seen The Incredible Hulk. So it's quite a few movies, but I don't really care. They're not really very important to me. So I have 24 here, and number 24, the worst one, was Token Namor from Black Panther 2. This character, not only was he tokenized, but he was also a really boring, stereotypical character. I mean, he was all the characters in that movie were so one-dimensional and awful, and they were just miserable to watch. And his character, he was so unimpressive as a villain. He was so uninteresting. He was so just ugh. And I saw what they were doing too. They wanted to make another Killmonger character where you have the suave guy, and he has a lot of shirtless scenes, which of course this guy, he's shirtless all the time. And he's really, really into a culture. And since they don't care about the comic book culture of the Atlanteans or whatever the fuck from Namor's comics, they had to put in Aztec culture and shoehorn that into this so that they could virtue signal, and they could make it all about oh, he really cares about culture, just like Killmonger. And it's no, he's nothing like Killmonger. He's trash. He's awful. He's just the worst. Ugh. And then at the end, he just turns good all of a sudden. and Shuri doesn't kill him. Oh, God. I hated that movie so much. Ugh. Number 23, I really wished I could have put this guy last because I hate him more than anything in the world. Number 23 is the fake Mandarin from Iron Man 3. This is another thing, to be fair, where, it wasn't tokenization, but it was completely ruining an established character for the sake of I don't even know what. I mean, they took Iron Man's arch nemesis and they made him into a joke so that you could have this like 1990s stupid been there done that story where a nerd turns into a guy in a suit. Like, wow, that's really an impressive story. Like, we're still doing those types of stories. Like, it was trash. And he really was like the Riddler in Batman Forever. So, I was flabbergasted when I first saw that movie. I mean, remember, this was back when, we thought the MCU was still good, kind of. So I was really, really upset. I thought, am I being punked with this movie? Like, was this whole movie a prank? Are they really doing this? And they did. And, And no, I don't want to watch whatever Mandarin and Shang-Chi. I wanted to watch Mandarin versus Iron Man. So, no, I'm not interested in that. Number 22 is Token Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp. From what I heard, she isn't even really a villain. And I saw a scene or two of her, and she was really, really bland. I mean, I think that the actress is nice. I don't think I've ever seen her in anything else. But I think it's more so to do with the writing. I think the writing for this movie is atrocious. It's basically just a comedy. It's not even really a superhero movie. And she's just really, really bland. Number 21 is Whiplash from Iron Man 2. This is another bastardized character. Like, I really hate this character so much. He was so weak, and I remembered, like, they played that scene in the trailer of Whiplash cutting apart the cars on the racetrack, and I was like, wow, he's gonna be an awesome villain, I guess, even though he looks really weird. He looks like a homeless person. He doesn't look like Whiplash, really. But instead, that's like his only good scene in the whole movie. And for the rest of the movie, he's just obsessed with some bird. And it's so stupid, and I hated it. I hated it so much. Like, it was so bad. It was such a steep drop from the guy in the first Iron Man. It was so embarrassing to say that is a villain. That right now, it's embarrassing. Like, even though modern Marvel movies are bad, and I say modern like now, it's really embarrassing to have Whiplash on this list, because I feel like he wasn't even a fully formed character. And Iron Man 2 in general was just a huge mess. I mean, I remembered seeing that movie in theaters, and I fell the fuck asleep because I was just so unimpressed with the trash on screen. And, I think Iron Man 2 and Black Panther 2, those are the only movies in the MCU where I have falling asleep, which it didn't work with Iron Man 2. Number 20 is Malekith from Thor: The Dark World. This villain could have been really cool. I really thought that the concept of dark elves, they looked really creepy. They looked like horror movie characters. I was really excited to see them go up against Thor. But Malekith in general, he was so generic and he was so boring, and honestly, there was another villain in the second Thor movie who was like his right hand, and he was like really huge, and he was bigger than both of Thor and Malekith, and he's the one who actually kills Thor's mom. I thought he was a better villain than Malekith. So, like, I really don't have one good thing to say about Malekith, which is sad. Next up, and by the way, these are F tier villains. Now, this is the D tier. Number 19 is Ronan the Accuser from Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't think he was the worst villain in the world, but he was another really generic villain. He didn't really have much depth to him at all. In general, I think that the villains in the MCU have been lacking, and except for, I do think that recently there have been a couple of better ones. And I think that the biggest problem that the MCU villains, the biggest reason why they're lacking is because they're so lighthearted and they're so soft and comedic that when they have these villains, villains require darkness, they require seriousness. You're supposed to take them seriously, you're supposed to be afraid of them, and they're not capable of doing that. So you have this character here, and the most iconic scene of the movie is Star-Lord making fun of him by dancing in front of him. And he's like, "What are you doing?" And it's like this kind of jokey scene. So that's a big reason why the MCU movies are pretty bad for the most part, because you can't take the villains seriously as threats. And speaking of taking villains seriously as threats, next up we have Kang, number 18. Kang the Conqueror from Ant-Man and the Wasp inside Quantumania, also starring the other Ant-Man and the other Ant-Woman Wasp and the Ant-Daughter and Bill Murray. That's the real title for that movie. And so I will not give any spoilers here, since someone was mad about that in the other video, which I would just say in general for my channel that if a video is over an hour long, it'll probably have spoilers in it, because I don't know how you could talk for an hour about something without talking about spoilers. Just at least for me. So Kang the Conqueror, he was really boring. I think that the actor is pretty good, and but this movie was horribly written, and he really didn't have much to do. He really had the same tone the whole movie, and I really wish that instead of having this movie with Kang in it, they should have just made a Kang movie if they wanted to hype him up so much, and then have Ant-Man 3 as the follow-up where Kang is not in it. And it's just MODOK, the real MODOK. That's what I would have done, and I think that would have worked much better. He had a couple of okay moments, but he's just really not intimidating, and he's really not a good villain in terms of, I kind of want to laugh when people say, like, this is the villain that the Avengers are supposed to be afraid of. I'm not scared of him. I feel like I could probably go up against him in a fight, kind of. I don't know. I don't know if I could really win a fight, but I don't want to. So number 17 is Thanos, which I know is going to make a lot of people roll their eyes. But this is why. We are talking about best villains here, villains in the MCU. And when I tell you guys that Thanos, his character was ruined from what he was in the comics. He has this brilliant backstory involving death, where he wants to kill people to please death, and he wants to do all this just to please her. And it's a really dark story because he really likes killing people, and that's why they call him the Mad Titan. Well, they take all that, they throw that out the window, and they say, oh no, he has philosophy reasons. Like he has like a couple little gripes, and they're big enough gripes to want to commit genocide, apparently. And his character's just really weak. I mean, he 1v1s Iron Man. He 1v1s these certain characters that he should not be messing with. Well, I mean, he's not able to 1v1 them and just kill them. I mean, in the comic, he just kills everyone in 2 seconds. Like, it's a really pretty amazing comic. But in the movie, it's like, oh, he's really got Iron Man makes him bleed. I mean, just really not what he was in the comics. In terms of performances, it's completely different, though. I will say that. And I just think in general, it was another thing where he should have been given more. Like they had talked about originally that Infinity War was going to have this big backstory with him, and he was going to be recruiting the Black Order or whatever. What was that order called? The Order of the bad guys that he fought with. He was going to originally be recruiting them, and you're going to learn his backstory. Like, that sounded like it could have been a much better movie. But instead, we just got eye candy. Oh, look, people fight, people fight, people fight, people fight. And I really didn't feel like Thanos was anything compared to what he was in the comic books. I think he was a pale imitation. And the worst part was in Endgame, where he has become fucking Apocalypse Now, Marlon Brando character. I mean, if that isn't a joke, I don't know what is. The only part, there were a couple of redeeming qualities about Thanos. I mean, I'm not saying he's awful. It's just the level of disappointment is higher for him. Like, so that's why he's this low. I did really love it, though, when he punched the shit out of Captain Feminazi and just punched her off screen like a video game. He had a couple of really good moments, but number 17 is Scarlet. Wait a second. Okay, sorry. I'm getting 16. Number 16 is Scar. I don't even know why I'm doing numbers, because I'm just gonna post this tier picture on the video. I'm not even gonna do number this, number that. So fuck the numbers. Fuck numbers. Scarlet Witch is next up, from Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. She is this low because her character was stupid. Next up is next up is Ultron from Avengers Age of Ultron. This character, I felt like I could see what they were trying to do, and I appreciated the idea where instead of Ant-Man and whoever else did it in the comics, it was Iron Man and Hulk. And it's the science team, the science duo as people called them, and Iron Man's personality comes into Ultron, and Ultron is sort of like Tony Stark Jr. I thought that was a pretty interesting idea, but it just didn't really I don't know. I don't. The comedy, just the overdoing it with the comedy was really disappointing with this one after that incredible trailer with the No Strings on Me, where you thought that Ultron was going to be this serious, intimidating, scary bad guy, and instead he's just this quipping jokester with another CGI army. It's too bad. I really think that Age of Ultron was one of the biggest. Well, I think they're all big disappointments, actually. But Age of Ultron in particular was something where you saw that trailer and then you saw the movie. And the best parts of the movie were the serious parts. Like the part where Iron Man and Captain America are arguing when Captain is chopping up wood. And they're arguing about whatever, freedoms, blah, blah, blah. And then the part where Hawkeye is talking to Scarlet Witch. And he says, everyone here is afraid. I'm just a guy who shoots arrows. Like, we're all scared of dying here. Like, the serious parts were the best parts of this movie. So, like, I just... Ugh. Next up, now we are in the C tier, so those were all D tier villains. Now the C tier, these villains are not really good. They're just generic and average. So next up is Gore the God Butcher. I really just put him this high for Christian Bale's performance. I felt like whenever he was on screen, I wanted to see more of him. I felt like if he was the character from the comics, and if the comics if the movie had taken itself seriously, then this could have been an A tier character, but instead they did the comedy thing. So next up is Yellow Jacket. This guy is the most generic of all the MCU villains. I mean, I didn't even remember his name. Like when Ant-Man says, Darren? In Ant-Man 3, I was like, who's Darren? Like, oh, Yellow Jacket? Oh. That one guy, that random guy in a suit, is really boring. Next up is Red Skull. He was okay. I mean, he gave an okay performance. I can't really even remember him very well. I liked how they did the practical effects and they gave him that torturous mask to wear in real life, which made the actor never want to be in an MCU movie again. But he was okay. He's another iconic villain where I feel like he should have gotten a much more spectacular movie. In fact, pretty much all of these villains that I've talked about up to this point, I mean, it's kind of interesting. The villains at the top are kind of like lesser than the villains at the bottom in terms of what they should be like. So I think that that's something to talk about too. Now we are in the B tier. So we have the what was that guy's name? Marcilius? Marcilil? The bad guy from Doctor Strange 1. I felt like this is an underrated villain. I really loved Mads Mikkelsen's performance, and I thought that for a villain who, like, nobody even knows who he is, like, they just are kind of like, oh, that's the Doctor Strange 1 guy. He was a really, really good villain. I mean, he had a lot of great fight scenes, and I liked him. I thought he was pretty good. Next up is Kurt Russell from Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I liked this villain, because of the acting and because I thought that he gave a good performance where there was a serious turn and he says, I killed your mom or whatever, and I kind of like that, but other than that, this villain was another disappointment. The Living Planet. Isn't that what they call him? Yeah. Next up is Mysterio, or the MCU Mysterio, I should call him, because this is not what Mysterio should have been at all. I felt like this is another one where Jake Gyllenhaal elevated this trash character in this trash written movie. And I felt like there were a couple of good moments with him. I love the whole hallucination sequence with him and young Iron Man. But other than that, he's another just pretty good villain. Next up is Baron Zemo. See, he's not really Baron Zemo because he's not comic accurate, so I don't even really want to call him Baron Zemo. But I really liked, I guess, that he was this character who came out of Age of Ultron, and he had that whole tragic backstory with his son, daughter, was it his wife too? I can't even remember. I don't even care. I liked how it was like this one guy who just decided to make the Avengers kill each other, and I kind of like that story idea, and I like that. He should have just been an original villain, though. He shouldn't have been Baron Zemo in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, he was pretty good for the movie. I mean, he serviced the movie. The movie didn't service him. There are certain movies like Dirty Harry or Silence of the Lambs. And in those movies, the villains really service the movie as much as the movie services the villains. And but in this, it's just the villain, he's just not up to par. And at the top of the B's is Robert Redford from Winter Soldier. He was a pretty sinister character, I guess. I mean, he was bad, but that's really about it. The villain of that movie was Winter Soldier, and of course he turns good at the end, kind of. So he's yeah, he was a pretty, he was kind of evil. I mean, he was really evil. I don't know what else to say. Now we are in the A tier. So next up is Hela from Thor Ragnarok. I really felt like this was another underrated villain, and I wish that Cate Blanchett had a better script and that she wasn't in a joke movie, because I think she was the perfect casting choice for the character, and I really loved the design that they gave her too. So it's sad, another villain that was wasted with shitty ass fucking Taika Waititi and his jokester crap. Next up is Vulture from Young Iron Man Homecoming. Michael Keaton is a great actor. He did a great job as Vulture in this movie, even though the movie was complete garbage. The end. And I would have put him even higher if not for that awful post-credit scene in Morbius where he shows up and he's like, "Hey, you know about Spider-Man. I know about Spider-Man. We should talk sometime." Oh, God, that scene was terrible. Number 4 is Killmonger from Black Panther. I really felt like this villain was a great villain. He thought that he was right in what he was doing, which made him even scarier because he was intent on doing some really evil things. And another person who wanted to commit genocide. And he was cool. You know, he kind of had a swagger to him, and he was really good in fight scenes, and I felt like he was a great villain for the movie. The only thing that I didn't like was that he killed Black Panther's arch nemesis. I mean, it's really unfortunate that Ulysses S. Claw was taken out to serve as Killmonger. You know, I feel like that was a really poor decision. And then I don't like, too, how in the second one they're kind of like turning him into a hero almost, because Shuri sees him in the vision in the spirit world, and I don't know why she would envision him of all people. Like, ew. Like, after what he was trying to kill her and everything, like, ew. Like, I would not picture somebody who wanted to kill me, even if they were a family member. Like, that was just weird. But he is still a really great villain. He is number 4. Number 3 is Warmonger from Iron Man 1. And this is the villain who started it all. He was personal to Iron Man. In fact, I was under the impression from watching this movie that Warmonger was Iron Man's arch nemesis, because I thought, why would you put this C-tier potential character as Iron Man's first villain? You know, like, for the impression that he gave me in the movie was that he was Iron Man's Joker. Like, he was really powerful. He was personal to Tony Stark's story, and he knew where to attack and how to attack, and he was going behind his back in the company and everything, and I felt like he was a great villain. He was very well written, and of course the acting made it all better. Number 2 is Green Goblin from Young Iron Man No Way Home. This one is tough because he's not even MCU technically. He is Sam Raimi universe. But that counts now, and of course he was the main bad guy in No Way Home, so I felt like, speaking of Joker, I felt like Willem Dafoe's performance in this movie, it was on par with Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight. I felt like he was a fantastic villain. He was really scary, and he really, you didn't feel like the characters were safe when fighting him. And the part at the end where, honestly, like, anybody would have killed him. Anybody would have killed him for what he did to their aunt. And so he was a really tough villain, and he also had this kind of sympathetic side, supposedly. Like, I really loved at the beginning where you thought that he was going to be like a good guy, and then he does that serious turn, and like, he was really, really good. Number 1, though, is Loki from Thor and the Avengers. Loki is a character that I really think he's probably I think he's the most comic accurate character out of all the people on this list. And I think that there's something to say to that the most comic accurate character is the best character on the list. And then the least comic accurate character is the least person on the list. So that should tell you guys how much I value comic accuracy and, important stuff like that. I would say that he's just the perfect villain because he always throws you for a loop, and he's always up to tricks, and he's You never know if he's good or bad, truly. And then he kind of has this good side, which comes out later on. And at the same time, you know that he really is evil. He likes to do evil. And, he's just a great character. And in the Avengers, he really was an incredible villain with how brutal he was. I mean, he was scary. He was much scarier and much smarter than Thanos in his first Avengers movie. Like that opening scene where he's just murdering people with his staff or whatever. And didn't the staff have the Tesseract or something? Like, I can't even remember. Because it was just... I don't know. He had the stick thing. And then, of course, there's that incredible moment where he's in the cell. And he's like, this isn't going to go how you think it's going to go. And then he causes chaos and the ship is going to... he escapes. He wreaks havoc on everyone, and he's just the best villain clearly on this list. I mean, I could see people putting Thanos up there just because he did stuff. But Loki is the one who did stuff, and he was smart, and he was a lot like he was in the comics. And yeah, he was just clearly the best villain to me. So yeah, we are looking to be in pretty bad shape here if Kang the Conqueror is this low on the list. So anyways, please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought of my list, because if I were to rank these guys in terms of performances, the list would be completely different, Just saying. And then please subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more fun and honest ranking videos. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.